What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you could have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Make your next thing a big one. Speaking of entertainment, today on the program, oh my goodness, guess who's back? Darra's back. Oh, Dara. I know I pronounce his name several different ways, probably pronounce his name several different ways throughout the podcast, but I love that Dara is back. Kusha Deep music. You know who Dara is. You've been listening to this podcast enough. My Irishman in the London area. And yeah, you're going to get to hear a bit about what his new music is and probably a lot of thoughts. He's a very thoughtful individual. So stick around for that. Dara's back. This week's shows, this week's shows, I will be at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. The usual video dance party karaoke jam at the Rab, 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the AM. They got a full bar, the kitchen's open, pool tables, pool tournament on Friday night. So if you want to try your hand at playing pool, I encourage you to check out the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. Always a good time. Always a good time. Oh, my goodness. Oh, speaking of good times, I'm back in Fairfield Bay on Saturday. I'm at the Cool Pool Sports Grill doing the video dance party karaoke jam. They got a full bar. They got the kitchen, delicious food. They got a pool. So we're opening up the Memorial Day weekend, I think it is, starting this Saturday. So excited about that. So if you're anywhere in the Fairfield Bay area, come on out. Cool Pool Sports Grill. I like doing that. I think I'm there 3 times this year. They've already booked me ahead of time. So I'm stoked. Good people up there at Cool Pool Sports Grill. I'm sorry, I can't remember the times. But, hey, just follow Cool Pool Sports Grill on your Facebook feed, and you'll find out. I think it's in the evening, towards the evening. It might be during the day, but heading towards the evening. Usually it's an adult event, so they wait for the kids to get out of the pool, and then they have me there for the drinking people in the end of the night. Yeah, it's a good time. It is. Fairfield Bay, Cool Pool Sports Grill, Saturday, Memorial Day weekend. All right, that's enough intro. Let's get into it with Dara. Kusha Deep music. Oh, so stoked to catch up, find out what's going on in the world of Kusha Deep music. I got him on Skype, so if you're listening to the audio version of this, I encourage you to check out the YouTube version on my YouTube page, youtube.com/user/Keys Dan. Skyping Dara of Kusha Deep music now. Ah, the legendary rock star. What's up, Dara? Uh-oh, I muted you. Let's unmute. Go.
I'm everything's good, brother. Everything's good. Are you getting a little lag there, or is it all good?
No, it seems okay. I mean, you know, this technology and everything. I'm very appreciative to Skype, even though they're not sponsors of the podcast. But I'm very happy for the technology because I get to talk to my my Irishman. Are you in London now?
We're sort of south of London, so yeah, not far away, about 45 minutes away from sort of South London. So yeah, everyone's a winner, baby. Everyone's a winner. We've been having a nice little bit of lunch and a few glasses of champagne, so we're all quite merry. Had quite a merry afternoon.
Well, this should be a really loose podcast. I know, you know, for people that listen to this podcast, they know all about you, Dara. They know that we're just catching up here. They know that the first time that we talked, you were being stabbed in some kind of a nursing home, and then the next time that we spoke, it was pretty casual. You were, in your room, just talking about the music that you've been putting out there, and man, I love it. I love the style of rock and roll that you have because it's a throwback. It makes me feel like the days of yesteryear, but it is solid rock and roll that can be appreciated by the masses, these today and any time really. I just don't know, how do you make your voice so gravelly, so rocky? You can. It's not like you scream. Exactly. You're not screaming like a heavy metal guy, but you have that power, and you could feel it. It's coming from deep. Well, maybe it's coming from Kusha Deep.
Kusha Deep. I like where you're going with that, case. Are we rolling? Can I say a few words before we get in there?
Man, you could say as much as you want. We've been rolling since you turned the thing on.
So I turn the thing on. So firstly, I just want to say big thanks to obviously yourself for being such a magnificent individual, broadcasting an amazing vibe across the world constantly. So I really do appreciate it, and I certainly appreciate you staying in contact, man. You just got that spirit. You're one of these dynamo energies that actually can lift the world with your with a single kind of single vibe. You just come in there and it's a beautiful vibe. So I want to say thank you to you. And also to the listeners who have been supporting the music as well. So yeah, big thanks to everyone tuning in. And it's a really good it's just a great vibe to be able to connect in with some super cool people from across the pond and share some good time vibes.
Oh, the pleasure's all on this side of the pond for sure. And I love that. I'm kind of an Anglophile. In fact, my wife is in there watching the Tudors right now. We're on the King Henry VIII. I think he's on his third wife, Jane Seymour, and it's an amazing series that we've been watching. Henry Cavill, the Superman, he shows up in that show at some point. But it's nice going through the history. 1536. I just realized I knew it was a big year for King Henry VIII, but I didn't know it was so big, because Catherine died, Anne died, and he married Jane Seymour all in the same year, and started a war with the Church with the Catholic Church by forming the Church of England.
Yeah. He was definitely pushing the boat out there, wasn't he? He was trying to cram in quite a bit, and certainly sort of left a bit of a legacy, and probably sort of a legacy for the royal family to follow in. Really, sort of like, let's not let the show down. We've got to carry on that tradition of doing that nasty vibes. No, it's all cool. They're all good. They do their thing, and lots of people love them.
Well, speaking of that, last week we were supposed to chit chat, but I know a couple of weeks ago, there's a coronation of a new king, Charles I. But you said that the whole, not just London or even south of London, but the whole of England and the British Empire was feeling, I don't know, one way or the other. Tell me about that. Tell me about the coronation of the new king.
Well, you know what? There's kind of pluses and negs with kind of like that whole thing. There's one thing. I mean, it definitely sort of brings people together under sort of the banner of kind of unity of the country, as it were. But it's equally as it is unifying, it's equally as divisory as well, because obviously, it's changed its meaning for a lot of people over the last kind of 30, 40 years with the different things that have happened, within that framework. So, as I say, it's an equal kind of scenario. It's just difficult. I think, we all grew up with the Queen. So, and she was just, I don't know, a lot of people think that the royal family kind of ended with the Queen. Do you know what I mean? Because she was just everything. She was like, I don't know, she was a bit of a mother to the nation. And she had a connection to the old realm, if you like, the old way of doing things, and she was dignified, and she didn't really sort of like open her mouth when it wasn't necessary, and she didn't align herself with people who might not necessarily sort of like be that scrupulous. So I think that the new king brings in some question marks amongst a lot of people that I kind of know and hang out with. Do you know what I mean? So I can't say it was completely welcomed amongst everybody, but certainly the kind of the stalwart. I've got a lot of friends that are, when I say they're sport, maybe older friends maybe who are stalwart kind of royalists, and they're they're really into it. But I think that as I say, pluses and negatives. You know, in one sense, it does bring things together, but yeah, in other ways, things have to change as well, and people have to move on, and you know, the country and in general, I think that Europe and America is going through such a tumultuous kind of period of its history that, you know, that kind of privileged kind of like top end of kind of the elite sort of side of things isn't quite, you can't ignore it when people are sort of struggling to kind of keep a roof over their heads. You know, when things are going well and everybody's got, you know, bread and circuses and they're sort of, you know, they're kind of otherwise engaged with frivolity, shall we say, you know, then it does, you know, you can turn a blind eye to a lot of that. Do you know what I mean? But when you've got, as I say, sort of people who are struggling to kind of keep things together, and you've got, you know, billions of pounds being kind of spent on situations like that, and certain kind of things that have been, I think, kind of like overlooked in terms of, you know, just protocol, then, you know, it wasn't, you know, had that happened maybe sort of 2016 when things were kind of okay, I think that it probably would have been welcomed a bit more. But I think because things are different now and people are feeling the pinch, that anyone that's kind of like in that elite position is being questioned, and rightly so, you know. So yeah, equal blessing, equal curse, really. You know.
Well, Dara, I see that you're tiptoeing and picking and choosing your words very wisely, just like the dearly departed Queen Elizabeth II did. You know, not a lot of people were alive before she was queen, so she was a big staple, not just in England but in the world. The British Empire into the world adored and thought of Queen Elizabeth as such an icon. And you're right, she did pick and choose her words very wisely, you know, using the radio, using different media, you know, structuring her speeches and making very few appearances. She wouldn't do a podcast, or she would not have done a podcast like this where it was loose and we were just chit-chatting about whatever we were thinking about the world. No. She had to have everything written down ahead of time, rehearsed, structured, you know, very even-handed. But, you know, even she had her problems, just like we all have. We're all complicated people, but you know, the monarchy, it's such a staple of Britain, of England, of the British Empire. It's hard to get rid of it. I know that every year it seems like there's legislation. We shouldn't be supporting these people. They're figureheads. It supports the class system, which is also you know, ingrained into the English people, the British Empire. I mean, is there still a big problem with class, or are people able to climb the ladder of success, live the dream, as it were?
I think kind of class is probably less. I mean, you know, of course, you know, there's probably two tiers of kind of class. I don't think there's a middle class anymore like there kind of was. I think the middle class has sort of been attacked in the last sort of 3 years particularly, and you're sort of seeing that sort of dwindling. So that kind of aspirational kind of like, there was a great set of comedians. There was just before Monty Python really took off. There was two guys called the Two Ronnies and John Cleese, and they did a really clever skit. And John Cleese was the upper class kind of character. Ronnie Barker was the kind of the middle class, and Ronnie Corbett was the working class. And it goes something like this. It goes, I look down on him because he's below me. And then the middle class goes, and I look down on him because he's below me. And he goes, and I look up to both of you because you're way ahead of me. You know, and that was kind of like how it was, you know. But I think because, you know, money and sort of, you know, if you go back to the sort of the 60s where the Beatles were breaking through, and working class kind of people were working class, like Lennon's working class hero, you know, there was this opportunity to kind of break through, you know, if you worked hard and you had enough savvy. So I think sort of class is less kind of relative today. I think it is down to money. And I think that that has become, for some people kind of like an easier thing to achieve now with the internet. There is kind of like much more opportunities for people to kind of to get ahead of the game. So I think that class is becoming probably less of a thing. And it's more about, what you have achieved and where you kind of gravitate to. Yes, there's always going to be at the absolute top end of the elite. There's always going to be, they're new money or whatever. So there's always going to be that snobbery. But I think it really is less of a thing today. I think that people have a chance and opportunities to kind of break through. However, having said that, we are looking at quite an interesting period of time where, how can I say it? Like the powers that be never want you to really get too high. And when you do get too high, then you'll notice that the economic tree will just shake and everyone will fall to the bottom. And if you think back to sort of like, the 1929 crash, that was, that's the same. It's the same pattern over and over again. Mm-hmm. There's lots of success for 10 years, and then suddenly the top end go, right, now it's time to call those debts back in. Whoa. And when you can't pay, you know what I mean? Then your bank's going to get seized, and you can sort of see it. It's the same kind of game over and over again. You're never. George Carlin. Look at George Carlin. George Carlin's like that. It's a club, and you ain't getting in unless you're born into that bracket. And that's, George Carlin was on it. He was. That's it. What a great kind of individual George Carlin was for putting it in that succinct way of going, it doesn't really sort of matter who and what and where, and unless you're in that club, you are not going to get in. And that's the truth of it. And, you can sing all day long about it, but it's never going to change anything, because it's just like any structure. Like any structure in human kind of development, people protect it. It's like if you had, you have a company and it's worth, multi-million dollars. You're going to protect your board, aren't you? You're going to be protective of that situation. And it's the same with, as I say, the top echelon where we look at kind of like the big families. I'm not going to mention names because you guys know who they are, but those families are running the show, and they have been for a long period of time. And they do it very well because they're smart. They're very, very clever. They know how to work things. They know how to make people not question. They know how to even make this conversation sound like a conspiracy, because they're clever at doing it. And so I think they're smart. They're smart people. They don't stay where they are without being. Smart people stay at the top. And people who don't ask questions aren't going to get there.
Well, speaking of comedians, Mike Myers calls that the pentaveret, the 5 top people that are ruling the world. But you're talking about comedians and you're talking about class, but George Carlin in particular, growing up, he was a hero of mine. I had quite a few of his records between myself and my best friend John Canada, who's also been on this podcast. We had quite a few of his records, and we listened to his words, and his words still resonate. He's been dead for 20 years now, it seems, and his words still resonate with what's happening today. But you were talking about the stock market crash, and even, I bring that the crash of 2008, which affected the whole world. And here we are. There's 2 banks that just failed. The second and third largest bank in the United States have just failed over the last couple of months. So are we living in fear of another recession or perhaps depression? And, there's a very fine line between the two. Groceries are going up, gas is going up, goods are going up. You're talking about the middle class. Oh my goodness. I'm trying firmly to stay in the middle class, but you have the 2-party system that we have here. And I'm getting real political with you because hopefully you'll write a song about it real soon. This will become fodder. But
yeah, all my stuff is political. If you listen to sort of like heavier than rock and roll, for instance, that you've been playing, that's what's that saying? It's saying, this was before all the kind of the stuff happened in January, February, March of 2020. Before that, I was saying things were getting heavier and heavier. And there's a track on You Kind of Normal called The Beat, which I took that whole, if you can't hear the drums of war, then you must be deaf. I took that from Kissinger. So, if you look across the board of work that I've done since, even even going back to when I was at EMI when I was 20 years old, you know, Reach Out was the first hit I had. You know, that it's always been, I've never just been able to write for anything that didn't have some sort of political or social or spiritual underlying. You know, when I was 15, I wrote a song called Freedom, which was about, you know, a guy called Lech Wałęsa who was fighting against the Russians at that time. Do you know what I mean? For solidarity amongst the working people of Poland. So, you know, I've always been political in my. I didn't think that, you know, writing music. Yes, of course, I can write a love song. Of course, I can, and it's great to do that if you're feeling it. But you know, as I say, if you listen to New Kind of Normal, that's a politically based album. It's a politically spiritual and social album that, you know, has some moments in there from, as I say, from sort of political upheavals to, you know, again, sort of like, you know, powers that be closing freedoms down to, you know, suicide and not having kind of people there, like Robin Williams, like The Lights is based on Robin Williams, you know, one of the funniest men in the world who was on his own when he took his life. And it's like, you know, at that moment when you need that kind of light, in those dark moments, that's what that tune's about. So, you know, we can go super political, but that's my track record. You know, that's why, you know, I didn't really fit in at the major record company levels because I couldn't do what I was told.
Yeah, but you can fit in with the major record labels. You could fit in with the whole of the society, singing what you singing what you feel. You know, I look at the greats. You already mentioned the Beatles. They had a lot of politics in their songs, and the Stones and all the folk singers, Dylan. You know, the greatest songs that I've ever listened to in my personal life are the ones that made me feel, that made me think. You know, there's room for bubblegum pop music that mentions tearing my heart and gonna make me fall apart because it's not really art. You know, if I hear another song. Yeah, if that mentions a part and heart, oh, okay, this is a pop song. It's bubblegum. It's going to make me dance at the club maybe a little bit, but it's not going to make me think. It's not going to make me learn something. But, you know, oh, my gosh, Gordon Lightfoot, just songs that resonate with my mind. Rock songs that have, yeah, you're a storyteller, you know, and you're helping to teach people. You're a teacher. You're a storyteller. You have the power to do so much with your music, Dara.
Yeah, well, look, you know, that's what I'm saying, you know, but if major record companies kind of don't really want people like me, and there's a reason why, because it's a lot easier to have somebody, I'll quote Noel Gallagher on this one because he came out of a beauty recently. You know, if you look at Harry Styles, for instance, and you know, the difference between, say, you know, someone like that and someone like me is like, you know, a record company would say, and this is to quote Noel Gallagher, goes, "Hey, put on that dress and shut it, all right, and get out there and sing those songs." You know, that's the kind of artist that will kind of like be groomed for mainstream success. But if you've got somebody who would do an interview and actually speak the way I'm speaking to an A&R guy, they would be petrified. Well, just petrified. Yeah, they don't know what I'm going to say next.
You got the Suits that saw this song that made $1 million, you know, and that song had these elements. So I want you to write a song with those same elements. That's a little bit the same, but just different enough to where you can call it a you know, an original song. These are the Suits, the downfalls of the big business that's money. It's all money. But by the same token, the people that do things differently, you know, that speak their own mind, sometimes those are the ones that go, as they say, viral, you know, which used to mean you sold a lot of units, you sold a lot of records, you put a lot of butts in the buckets at the movie theater, you know, for your film, because you did something different. That was it was something they hadn't seen before. But you know, the record labels and even the movie companies, they don't want to see that. They want some of the same because they know that that's a safer bet.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sort of like if you look at kind of like, you know that 66, 65 to 60 to 70, there was that was a golden period where and actually quoting, say, someone like Frank Zappa, said that the suits weren't in control of the game because they didn't really understand it, so they would just throw money at anyone that kind of had a thing going on. So I think in the 60s and the 70s there wasn't so much kind of like control over content. I think there was a lot more freedom artistically. I think as we moved sort of past the 90s, I think that kind of control of the narrative became very, very important. And if you look at Napster coming along, there was no constraint on Napster whatsoever. It was akin to sort of like you going into Tower Records and just helping yourself to every record on, that you wanted, and everybody's storming in like they do in Walmart in Chicago. Do you know what I mean? Just kind of just take whatever you want. Do you know what I mean? And then wonder why there's nothing left at the end of it. And that's not how commerce works. You know what I'm saying? So by allowing kind of Napster to do its thing, run riot, and then to get followed by, things like Spotify, which kind of took its place and became more of a sort of stable thing, but never really recognizing the artists for what they are actually producing. Do you know what I mean? You could have a million streams and it doesn't mean anything. Do you know what I'm saying? In terms of, you're not going to pay your rent off it. Do you know what I'm saying? So the music industry was systematically dismantled and then replaced with kind of like a sort of pale shadow of what it was, with people who could easily be manipulated at that level. And then you had this whole, American pop idol thing that kind of like took place of the grafting in the clubs, and it became easier for kind of people to just kind of have a hit record by just going on a pop show. But you got to realize that you're never going to be able to find real, in all those years of pop idol, really you've got to ask yourself how many real artists actually came through that staple. Really, I don't, just name me one that you could go, it was like that was a Jimi Hendrix, or that was a Beatles, or that was a Janis Joplin or whatever. Just name me one out of 20 years of that format.
Very difficult to do. You mentioned Napster. When I remember when Napster first came out, it was a candy store with free candy. And if it wasn't for people like Lars Ulrich and even Dr. Dre, Lars got a lot of heat for pushing back on Napster, but rightly so. People were cool. Yeah, people were stealing from you artists. Okay, people like me had to, who were always buying records and making sure that we paid for the items, that we played at the clubs or on the radio stations. Every once in a while at the radio, we'd get a free record, from an artist that would say, "Hey, take a listen to this record." And play it, and please, maybe some more ears will get on it, and we'll sell some more units. But I'm very glad that Lars Ulrich pushed back, because Napster may have still been around, and there would be no reason to make music, because there's never going to be any money to be made. Nowadays, the only money you can make is either playing live or selling merchandise. If I can get a little hat or a bumper sticker that says Dar.Ra, Kusha Deep, that would be wonderful. You might be able to pay your rent this month,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I think that music itself kind of took about a backseat, and it's a different landscape to, when I came out of school, there still was an industry in that respect. You know what I mean? There was still a sort of, you could still go in a band and tour and get support slots with big bands, and get signed to major record labels. When I got dropped from EMI for various different reasons, I got a deal very quickly sort of after that with Warner, small kind of deal with Warner's, and then kind of flicked on to another deal after that, and then went to Australia and worked down there with BMG and Festival Records, and it was very easy to bounce around a little bit, you know what I mean, and get work and get paid. Like, I was remixing to Frankie Goes to Hollywood and making $2,000-3,000 a mix, and that would be deemed quite good money now. Do you know what I'm saying? So so things change, and then you had the license into film and TV, which kind of like kept things going through the noughties, but then it just got so clogged, it became so much material, and people can produce material for nothing. So it got very clogged up, and so where we are is in a sort of situation where sort of music has become a sort of kind of throwaway operation, which is kind of where the powers that be kind of want it to be, because people like John Lennon and Bob Dylan and Joe Baez and all those kind of cats. Do you know what I'm saying? They were kind of pretty maverick kind of like people to sort of be able to rouse a kind of an army by kind of making certain statements, and those sort of artists don't exist now. I don't know, say for instance, and here's another thing, and this really makes me quite sad that what we went through in the last 3 years, that not one artist actually stood up, apart from, say, Eric Clapton or Van Morrison, and said, maybe we should look at this, because I think there's a few anomalies here that need questioning. And actually, the grand majority of people actually went against a tirade against them. Do you know what I mean? So artists have got, whereas like you look back at, say, Lennon, Lennon sort of speaking out against the Vietnam War, for instance, that doesn't happen. You name me sort of one artist that stood up and said, well, I don't know if I agree with you, what's going on in the Ukraine right now. Not one. If you look at some of those big bands, with all due respect, if President Biden asked me to play for his inauguration, or Trump or any of those guys, I wouldn't dream of playing for a politician. Not, it didn't matter how much money you'd pay me, I would not play for a politician, because I don't agree with whatever they're doing. I don't agree with, do you know what I'm saying? And I'm certainly not. But is how many artists, for instance, even Obama, right? Look how many artists would play for Obama. Do you know what I'm saying? All of them will roll through there. Why? Why are you doing that? For me, an artist should be independent. An artist should be independent of government and of royalty and all of that, and actually be able to sort of go, in order for me to have a formulated vision on where I want to be as an artist, I cannot be consumed by, a vested interest who has vested interest, who's just going to use you like that. And when I see artists doing that, I just lose all faith and credibility with those guys, and never really, I won't listen to them again. There's certain people I'm not going to mention, but certain people I've looked at over particularly in the last 5 years, who I've just lost all respect for. Well, who I once upon a time thought, they were cool, man. Do you know what I mean? But I wouldn't listen to their records ever again.
Well, Dara, sometimes it's tough. You have starving artists. Hey, would you like to play this gig? Oh, it's for the president. It's for that senator. It's for that representative. Here's a big bag of money. You'll be able to pay your rent for the whole year. It'll make your whole nut. But it's tough, to weigh out your.
I bust on a street corner rather than pay for a big bag of money for somebody who's just going to use you. I just don't think it's a good idea, because you lose credibility. I mean, in my mind, you will lose credibility. And I just would, as I say, there is not one politician that I would go. I mean, look, I really like Rand Paul. I'm just going to put it out there. I like Rand Paul. I like what he does. I like how he stands. I like where he's at. But if Rand Paul phoned me up and said, "Listen, Dara, I love what you do. Would you come and play for this little thing?" I would say, "Rand, listen, dude, I love you, brother, but no, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Even if I do agree with you, I can't do it, because you know what? I'm going to compromise myself." Do you know what I'm saying? What if you turn around and you suddenly down the road, you're not as cool as you were, and I suddenly find out you've been doing, trading arms for cocaine? You know what I mean? I'm going to look like an idiot down the road a piece that I supported you. So I don't trust anyone. I don't trust any of it. I don't trust any of the game.
That's the cynic in me that agrees with you as well, man. But, I imagine that there has to be people that get into politics that they want to help the community. They want to help somebody. But then once they get into the system, they get corrupted. It just, I feel like, we mentioned the two-party system. You got the Republicans on this side that are stealing the money from the middle class and giving it to the rich. And then you got the Democrats on that side that are stealing money from the middle class and giving it to the poor. They're all stealing my money, man.
Yeah, I think we could go super deep. I don't know if it's even as simple as that. I think they're just stealing from the people and keeping it for themselves.
That's correct. That's correct.
I think there's more going on there. That's if you look at I think you guys are probably in for one of the biggest how shall we say, one of the biggest rude awakenings your country's probably ever seen. I think that people are going to really wake up and go, oh, shit. Now, the difference between us and you is we've been getting kicked in the arse for ages, right? We've never had it good in this country. We've always been used and abused, and we've never had good times in this country, right? Never. All right. Even in the 90s, they threw us a bit of bread in the 90s. Do you know what I mean? But they soon took that away. We've never my generation have never known anything but recession. So we're recession babies, right? We've been through it and through it and through it. You, on the other hand, have lived like gods, right? Because the British Empire was gone way before I was born. Do you know what I mean? So we've only known what it's like to live in the aftermath of an empire. You were on the ascendancy while we were clinging on your coattails, really holding on for dear life, really. So you've known what it's like to be on the ascendancy. Now you're going to know what it's like to not have that ascendancy and not be not be the kind of the big card that you kind of was. And it's down to bad leadership. And really bad leadership. And I think people are going to wake up and go, we've been played. We've been played by both sides for, particularly in the last 20 years. And I think it's going to be a real blow for you guys. I really think it's going to be a blow. I think especially if you lose the currency reserve is if America loses its dollar currency reserve, man, you're in big trouble. Yeah. As I say, you're going to be in big trouble. It's going to be like the Weimar Republic, where it's like, inflation goes through the roof because you've got nothing to back your currency with. I mean, neither have we, but we've got nothing anyway, so it doesn't really fucking bother us. Do you know what I mean? Well, know what I mean? We've got nothing, so it's like to have nothing.
Yeah, democracy was a great experiment. It was fun while it lasted. See you later, But you were talking about the money. It's not backed by anything. What was it? They dropped another $1 trillion coin into the bucket and said, "Okay, we got $1 trillion more dollars." Well, what's it backed by? Dreams, hopes, and dreams. And respect for that picture of George Washington on the dollar bill there.
You know what's really sad though, Keys, is the fact that England really doesn't have anything apart from a bit of a history. Really, it doesn't have anything. It thinks it's got something, but it hasn't. It's got no resources. It's got nothing. It's got nothing. It used to have a few musicians that could sing and dance a bit. But actually, really, it's got absolutely nothing apart from a bit of bravado and a bit of military that kind of runs about the world trying to follow you lot. And in desperate hope that people will think that it's actually got a pair of boots, but it hasn't really. But what you have is you've got resources. You've actually got resources. And yet those resources have been so super squandered, just like actually sort of English resources have been squandered over the years. But the tragedy of America, man, I've been to America a couple of times. I've been to Savannah. I've seen the ports down there. I've been across a bit of Atlanta. It's big, man, and there's a lot of kind of farmland there. There's a lot of good resources. There's oil. You name it. You could throw a seed in the ground and grow whatever you want. You can't do that here. You're lucky if you can grow some potatoes. Do you know what I mean? It's a different climate. That's why Britain had to have an empire, because it had sod all at home. So it went around the world robbing and offering peace treaties to indigenous tribes in return for their resources. Do you know what I mean? So, so looking at America, particularly if you go all the way back to sort of, you look at your golden years, really sort of up to probably say 1968, 69, you had a good period from say 45 to 69 where you were really super on top. And then you watch kind of like subsequent leadership, like first of all selling the gold currents, the gold reserves is the first thing, then sort of selling out your manufacturing to China and building the Chinese infrastructure up, and then, subsequent administrations that have sent America out on fruitless campaigns, military campaigns, which have only really aided and abetted those at the top, and the American public have just kind of gone along and been, they've either bought into whatever it was mainstream, and I've seen how mainstream works over there, and it is it's relentless, war on this, war on that, war on this, war on that. We hate you. Get rid of them. Do this over there. Jump, jump, jump. And it's a very, very well-oiled program. But I think that when that you got away, the media and the government were getting away with that when you had buoyancy in the economy that could be, you could do a little bluffology with printing money and this, that, and the other. What's coming down the line probably you won't bounce back from that, because unfortunately there's been no money spent on infrastructure in America. And from what I can see, there is a crumbling infrastructure that needs addressing super, like now, like yesterday. You look at all your major cities, and look, if I'm upsetting Americans about this, well, I'm sorry, man, but this is what I'm saying. If you look at Chicago, look at San Francisco, look at California, yes, they can say they're doing super well, and that's the narrative where you can lie about something and actually you can see the reality and hear the lie, and you go, but the reality doesn't match the lie. You're not getting away with it when you see the amount of homeless people. Let's just take Venice Beach, for instance. You know what I mean? Like, once upon a time, California was something that everybody wanted to be in. Everybody wanted to go to California because that was Venice Beach and all the super beautiful people and all that kind of thing. Now it just looks like a dump spent on infrastructure. And that's really, that's going to come and bite you on the bum, really. And particularly if you lose your currency, you've got nothing to back the dollar. And as I say, sort of inflation. And when the difference between, say, the pandemic. Now I've got friends in Texas who kind of like we were staying in contact. And one day a friend of mine, she phoned me, and then she was doing her shopping, and I was looking at, I can't remember where she was now. She was in it could have been Walmart, one of those kind of places, you know what I mean? And the sort of the quality of the food, man, was unreal. There was mountains of food. There was apples and pineapples and bananas and, you name it, off the hook in terms of sort of like stock and food. And then if you went to one of our supermarkets, we were lucky if we had strawberries. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's the difference, and I think that what you're going to go through is what we've gone through, which is actually not being able to get hold of things because it's too expensive for people to be able to afford. And the tragedy is mismanagement. And, American people in general are, hardworking, good people, and they believe in their country. They believe in the resources that they believe in, because it's America is an incredibly beautiful place. It's a spiritual place. It's got energies that if you dig deep into it will blow your mind. You know what I mean? And yet, as I say, it's just been squandered. To quote sort of Joni Mitchell, they paved paradise and they put up a parking lot. And that's basically where we're at. All you've got now is just empty concrete. Look at Mississippi. Empty cities where people have just left, and because no infrastructure, you can't just keep on taking out of a situation and not building good infrastructure for people, because they'll just leave eventually. And I think a lot of Americans, I know a lot. I've got a lot of American friends, and they want to come to Europe. And I'm like, mate, Europe's not that much better. You know what I'm saying? It's not, it's still it's as deluded as, as anywhere else. But, I don't know, it's a strange time for Western culture and Western civilization. It's like, we were on the ascendancy, and I don't mean to get into a sort of doom, but, we aren't on that ascendancy anymore. We're not. And we're going to be surpassed by the BRICS nations, whether you like it or not. Like, again, you're going to get people go, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But, when you've got sort of big currents, big places like Saudi, Iran, Brazil, obviously Russia, China, South Africa, and all those other countries like the Arab League, all that crew, and South America, Central America, they all get together. It's going to just be us and them. You know what I'm saying? And we better get our shit together super quick, otherwise we're going to be in serious trouble.
Oh, this is definitely what Kusha Deep is definitely about. Dara, you're given truths, all right? Yes, America used to build so many things. I just got the chance to go to Detroit. It's blight. There's structures that were car companies that were making things, but when we started outsourcing in the 50s and 60s and stopped making things here in America, especially all the things that your friend was buying at that big box store were probably made in China. My wife almost every day says, we're going to be the United States of China real soon, because we owe so much, not just to them, but other countries in the world where we've outsourced all of our items. We don't build anything in this country except maybe ideas. And, the farmers, you're talking about the fruits and vegetables, very happy about the farmers, but even they're getting subsidized by the government not to grow things. What?
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, there's reasons why. I think there's a massive control game going on, with a lot of things, unfortunately, but I think as a result of that, what you will see is more communities coming together and people like, in your local kind of surroundings having conversations and going, we need to kind of make making stands, but actually being independent and actually being able to go, well, look, I can do this, you can do that, let's trade off that, and having little situations, that's what's got to happen. We've got to go back to basics before we can go forward. And no amount of AI and ChatGPT is going to feed people when there's no farmland left. You know what I mean? We can have all the technology in the world, but if we can't feed our nations because it's the populations have got out of control, or there's been craziness going on at borders, which is just irresponsible, absolutely irresponsible to be able to do that, to open up for whatever reason. It's a crazy thing. We're doing it over here. We've only got so much infrastructure, yet there's a sort of a broad base that says, we can keep on doing this. You can't. How can you feed these people? You know what I mean? When you've got no farmland left. We've got no farmland. We don't grow anything really. I'm saying we're building on our farmland. We're building houses. Where I live, there is no work. There's hardly any real working farms anymore, and yet we've got a population explosion like this out of hand, and it's quite daunting to go. What happens when people, particularly in England, because England's a small place, man. It's not a big place, and you start packing that out with 1 million more people every year, year in, year out, who aren't actually really. They're not working. They're sitting around not doing a great deal, and a smaller declining amount of people actually paying into the sort of the it's a recipe for disaster. And the sooner we can actually start working out that these people need to be held accountable and not voted for. See, it's very easy to sort of like when you go through the kind of the game a few times, it's very easy to see the patterns. But for the next generations coming up, they think that I don't know, the Democrats are the next few things, like over here now they're looking at Labour, for instance, to be the next great thing. Well, only sort of 15 years ago, they left the country and just as big a mess as the Tories are going to leave it in. So no politician is going to pull us out of this nosedive. No politician, because they don't, first of all, they probably haven't got the sense to be able to do it. And, the only way that they can do it is by having another war. And that war is going to be with your manufacturer. That's not going to be smart.
When I was growing up in the 80s, the jokes were to solve the economic mess, we need a nice long war that'll help to balance everything out. That way, everybody will be in one direction to spend all their money on the war effort. But if and when this all comes crashing down, the only way to survive is to be self-sufficient. I moved out to the country from the city. Right next door, there's a farm, a fully, farm that they produce. They have chickens and many vegetables. My wife, we have a small plot of land, about 3 acres. She wants to take a lot of those acres and plant some things and become more self-sufficient. Get our own tomatoes out there and potatoes and grow them ourselves. So that way, if and when all the infrastructure falls apart, we'll be able to survive on this little plot of land that we have, this little piece of the world, of the planet that we have. And
Absolutely.
yeah, if we could take care of that, I think that's what people need to be doing, is getting a little more self-sufficient, but and not rely on the government so much. Get off the government teat, if I can quote my wife on a daily basis once again,
Yeah, well, you know what? As I say, I talk to a lot of people from different age ranges because I like to get insight. And, I talk to a lot of older people who have been around the block a couple of times. And, I talked to my girlfriend's father who sadly passed away. But I remember sort of saying to him, so in all your years of voting, what did you ever see change? And, he'd say, not much.
Not much.
In 70 years or whatever it was that he was kind of floating about, nothing has changed. And that's because it's not supposed to change. It's not supposed to change. It's supposed to stay the same. Do you know what I mean? Or get worse for the everyday person. Do you know what I mean? So, this whole situation has been accelerated quite considerably in the last 3 years. And it's a shame, because you know what, things could be very beautiful for all of us, if we could just do what you're doing, which is just grow, share, love your communities, love your country, respect where you're at, respect the planet, try and help people where you can. Greed is an ugly thing, and it doesn't really. Greed is not sustainable, man, and this is why we're in the mess that we are, because of greed. And it's going to be an interesting few years, but maybe it will change the scope of things, and people will start to go, yeah, okay, it is about the community, and it is about not believing what they're telling you, or and not even believing in rock stars or pop stars or film stars anymore. I think those days are over as well. I think that, because there's no real heroes anymore, like, the Stranglers song, no more heroes anymore, and that's a good thing as well. Don't believe in heroes. Don't believe in TikTok. Don't believe in Facebook heroes. Don't believe in anything. Just believe in what you can do, and where you can change the scope of things by being sort of like in tune with nature, and some people call it God, I call it source, or the universe, or whatever it is, just being tuned. Man, if you haven't got your spiritual aspect in life, then you don't have a great deal, because human beings are just going to let you down, dude. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that's the run-ins, dude. And then, the other thing is like bringing music back, like you quite rightly said, to playing music because you feel it and you think that you can lift your community with a song, and going beyond that kind of, that whole, I don't know, that illusion of being a superstar. What's that about, man? Do you know what I mean? It's all a bit of a delusion, isn't it, really? But I think that, if you can play a song and lift the spirit and lift souls and make people smile, then that's really all music should be about. It shouldn't really be about anything else other than that. I think those glory girls and boys who sort of like run around with their screaming like fans, I think it's all a bit weird, a bit illusionary. And I think that people just need to sort of, as I say, start seeing through the illusion.
Well, Dara, you're getting real deep, man, and I appreciate that you brought it back around to music. Everybody needs a release, but you mentioned greed. I grew up in the 80s where greed is good. It was always make money, make as much as you can, and step on whoever you have to make that money. And I was getting frustrated recently, and I was saying, I don't know if I make enough money. But my wife, once again, my loving wife, she brought me back to reality. She said, we got a roof over our head, we got food in the refrigerator, we got 2 cars sitting in the parking in the parking lot, and we got a nice plot of land that we could build on, that we can grow things in. So I think we're doing just fine. We can live. I call it simply, but we're living okay. We do just fine, and I'm happy. She makes me happy. I make her happy, and that's the pursuit of happiness that we were promised when I was growing up. I pursued it, and I got it.
Yeah, I think that whole Gordon Gekko kind of thing was a bit. It wasn't meant to, Oliver Stone was trying to sort of show a message of kind of how ugly greed was, but unfortunately people interpret things in the wrong way and go about, doing exactly what you said, which is unsustainable. It doesn't bring you really lasting happiness. Yeah, you can be in a jacuzzi full of whoever it is that you want to be with, like whoever you want to be drinking or taking or whatever it is. But it's an illusion, it's all a very illusionary kind of thing. And, the real factors are, that lasting joy, like you said, with your wife, that there's a love there, and your wife sounds awesome because she's kind of like grounding you in to sort of go, it's that checklist. Can you pay your bills? At the moment, yeah, we can. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. Do you know what I mean? Have we got food on the table? Yeah, that's good. So, bringing us back to basics, I think is really important. And I think that's the main point of this whole period of time, is to get away from those things that have been fed down the line, i.e. greed is good. Greed is not good. Greed is bad for your soul, and you can't take it with you, so, you better, and this is, I don't understand billionaires, trillionaires, whatever, who don't think about, well, what can I do to actually put this back into the community space, and what can I do? It should all be about legacy and what you can do for the infrastructure of kind of the communities that you've actually gained from. And this is again sort of like, it's about, you put back in what you took out. Yeah. You can't take it with you, man. Do you know what I'm saying? So why worry so much about acquisitions when you can't? It's like, I don't know. You look at sort of like the whole Biden kind of situation, and and you think, how much is enough? Or Nancy Pelosi, and you think, how much is enough, Nancy? Do you know what I'm saying? How much is enough until you're happy, really? Because it doesn't seem to me like you've got a grip on what you should be doing, which is actually looking after your people in San Francisco, and making sure that they're not homeless. You shouldn't, now, and I'm not trying to say I'm holier than that, but if I was Nancy, Pelosi, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that other people were out. If that was my job, to make sure that there was no, our legacy should be every American should never be on the street, just the sheer fact that she would drive past homeless people and then be able to sleep at night tells you everything you need to know, really. That those people aren't working for their communities, and that's savage, man. That's savage. I don't know how you can look yourself in the mirror. It's like, it's just very sad, dude. You know what I'm saying? That things like, that things have got to get to that kind of point where people have got to wake up and go, these people are not serving us, man. They're not serving us. None of them are. So, it's down to people power.
Yeah. There's a reason why they became politicians. They don't build anything. I never thought that they were out to help us all that much. They help themselves. Yes, but I'm not a strict libertarian, because I can't be too much libertarian, because that'll be anarchy. We need to have some rules. We need to have some infrastructure. There needs to be police and fire department and ambulances and street people that people that helped with the road repair. But taking our money and giving it to, well, I mean, can we live? Can the whole world come together? Can it be one world like it is in Star Trek? Or do we have to stay in these little pieces of plots of land and defend our plots of land and ultimately have wars all the time? I want to live in peace. I'll give you the answer that I want is what Miss America always gives. World peace. I want world peace. But can we have world peace? I want it. What?
We should vote for Miss America. She sounds like she knows what she's doing.
You better believe it. You better believe it.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. My man, it is getting late where you are. I know we've been talking about a lot of things, and it's always good to catch up with you, Dara. No heavier than rock and roll. The reason I'm naming this one No Heavier Than Rock and Roll, I know that's the title of one of your more recent songs, and it does have a message in it. And it does make people think, but it rocks, man. And a lot of your songs that you have out there, in the title, it says rock and roll. So if you're wondering if Dara is a rock and roll star, look at half of the titles in his songs. There's something rock and roll.
Yeah. Rocksteady is another one, you know what I mean? Yeah. There is a new EP out, if we're closing down. Yeah, look, listen, just want to say before we shut down, it's just about love, man. It's just about love at the end of the day. And, I just wish, I just wish that things could be different and people could serve their communities with love. That's all it needs. It just needs love, not war, not, and, the core of it really is about teaching, education is the key, as I say, sort of, if we, I'm not talking about social, teaching all this social justice-y bits and pieces, because I think that needs looking at as well. But I think that what is lacking is teaching kids exactly that, about their spiritual well-being. You know what I mean? And about integrity, and about love, and about sustainability, and, about unity amongst people, less race division and more unity amongst people. And if we could change the education system, then we might have a bit of a chance. And I don't mean by, what's going on, the education system is being dismantled, but it's not being sort of like dismantled in the right way. It's kind of like it's steering kids basically off really what is important, and what is important is their true kind of like understanding of what they're doing here. Let's be honest with ourselves. What are we doing here on this planet? We are here for what reason? And for me, that is to find that peace and happiness within yourself, and that doesn't happen from having acquisitions. So if you can teach a kid not to not be ambitious to create things and do stuff, but to be also satisfied with their inner workings, that they can go into deep states of meditation and actually know that they can reach higher realms by being silent and quiet within that mind framework, getting to control the thoughts. If you can teach, if you were doing a meditation class with 5 or 6 year olds and just getting them to learn how to quiet the mind down so it's not chattering all the time, and actually learn about inner peace. Now, if we can find inner peace, then we will manifest peace. And that's the truth of it. And probably the reason why there's so much war in the world is because we're taught to live within scarcity, but the planet, if you think about it, has always supported human beings for centuries and centuries. There should not have to be any sort of starvation, and that's not a utopia. The planet, if you look after it, will look after us forever, but we choose not to. We choose not to do that. So, but, if we want to see peace, then we've got to teach peace.
Oh, this planet's going to be here a lot longer than we are. That's for sure. But I'm glad you qualified that statement that you made earlier about the education needs to change, because it definitely is changing for the better. Probably not. I remember learning things in school, learning about history, and if we don't learn about history, we're doomed to repeat it. Well, nowadays they're erasing history. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. There was no slavery. We brought some people from Africa to help us out on the plantation. Yeah, they wanted to come.
Yeah. But, I think, Bob Dylan once said, you can fool some people sometime, but you can't fool all the people all the time. So the truth will always rise to the top. People will always kind of know, I think, inherently, eventually, there's, you can't go against the law. Here's the thing, right? You can't go against the laws of the universe. And there are a few laws. And one of those laws is the law of polarity and the law of cause and effect. And if you have the law of polarity, you know that it's going to swing from war back to peace, war, anger, from love to anger. And that pendulum's constantly swinging back and forth, back and forth. And we've just got to kind of learn to steady that pendulum and have a neutrality at some point where it's not swinging from in such outrageous ways. Do you know what I mean? And understanding, when you understand the law of cause and effect, that what you do will have an effect on a situation down. If we could learn those two laws, then again, our actions we'd be thinking, and we'd be more conscious of our actions, or more conscious of our thoughts. Thoughts will create matter. We manifest our thoughts. Everything that you're seeing around you now, that all that equipment was an idea at one point, and then it manifested into matter through action. So, as I say, if we are taught peace at an early age, then we will project peace. If we're taught love at an early age, then we'll project love. If we're taught lies, then we'll project lies. If we're taught anger, and scarcity, that's what we'll protect. And unfortunately, because of the way things are, there's been a whole generation that have grown up with 20 years of war. They don't know any different now. That all they know is war. And that's sad, man. We were very, very, very lucky to have grown up and been kids in the 90s, the 80s and 90s, where actually, in some ways, we had a really good period of time where, yes, we had economic issues, but there was a lot of kind of stability in some ways, for us anyway, do you know what I mean? And, there seemed like in the 90s there was a lot of hope. You understand me? There was a lot of hope. There was a lot of hope for the 21st century, which got dashed. And it has been dashed, and we've just got to take those reins back. But that won't happen until communities come together, like-minded, to create, sustainable vibes. And it doesn't matter what color you are or where you're from. It's about values, man. It's about values. It's about, do we share the same values? Can we work together? Are we here to actually make this world a better place? And if you can sort of tick those values, then we're on the same page, and then we can work together, and then we can make magic happen. But if we're on different pages where you're going, wow, I'll work with you, but only because I think I'm going to get this. And that's the shame. But again, comes back to education. If you teach kids that actually there's enough for everybody, then they're not going to think like that, are they? They're not going to think, oh, he just lent me half an acre. I think I'll take an acre off him. Do you know what I mean? Because they go, well, that acre's beautiful. I can deal with that. I can work with that. And I'll work that acre, and I'll share that, whatever it is, back with you. And that's what it should have been from the word go. But as I say, humans don't learn easy. We don't learn easily. We learn through pain.
Well, that political pendulum has been swinging ever since I was a wee tot, and I know it feels like it was swinging slower. You had the Democrats that would be in office for 8 or 12 years, and then the Republicans for 8 or 12 years, and now it's 8 years, it's swinging faster, and now it's 4 years, swinging even faster. So I feel like. And I'm am I hopeful that it's going to happen or not hopeful? I hope we don't get canceled for this podcast, but I'm glad that we've been talking about these things. But the pendulum, you're right. If it swings faster, it needs to stop swinging. Most of us are right here in the middle. We want a roof over our heads, food on our plate, maybe a car or two in the garage. But it stop swinging.
Well, maybe
what's
maybe
that?
Just one. Maybe just one. I don't know. But as I say, I'm not. I don't think there's anything to be cancelled for, because at the end of the day, I'm not being controversial. I'm just saying the system's failed us.
Yeah.
And it's going to constantly fail us unless we actually we need to reform. There's nothing wrong with thinking about reforming things. I think that. We need to kind of look at the logistics of what's going on here and be sensible about how things are turning out. And actually, as I say, reaffirm what our value system is. What is our values? What do we, what do we live for? What do we strive for? What are the good things that actually we need to do? Rather than actually having that extra car, do we need it? These are the questions you want to be asking. Do we need this? Can we be happier? I'm going to sound like, be happy with nothing. Do you know what I mean? Because, as I say, human beings do need things. But, it's kind of like, not kind of like needing too much to make you happy. That's the thing. If we can get into that formula of, not keep, like you're saying, sort of like chasing that kind of constant, materialism doesn't make you happy. It does. It's, you all right. So you buy that brand new car and it's a buzz for 6 months or whatever. And then suddenly it wears off and you're looking for the next hit and the next hit and the next hit. And materialism will never satisfy you because you're not satisfied within your own self. So that's, all I'm saying is like, we just need to come at things with a bit more sustainability, a bit more love, a bit more acceptance, and actually reevaluate what our value systems are. What are we about in the West? What is our core denominator? What actually makes us great? What makes us great? Using your vibe, what makes us great? And what used to make us great was honesty, hardworking, fair, inspirational, wanting change for the better, trustworthy, word is our bond, accepting, all those kind of things. That should be our value system. We need to kind of get back to a maybe more of a basic kind of like, a basic value system that we can all kind of live and share by, whatever community you come from. Do you know what I mean? And that is not an sort of reasonable kind of demand. Do you know what I mean? That shouldn't be a cancel. We're going to cancel you because you want to kind of reevaluate our system, which is failing us all. It's failing us all. We're going to, as I say, we're going to get left behind if we don't. That's the core.
No, I agree so much. I agree so much, Dara. And I was laughing. I was smiling because when you mentioned, do I need that second car? Just mentioned it this morning, maybe 2 hours ago to the wife. We have 2 cars and she's a homemaker primarily. And a lot of times she'll use her mother's car when they have to go do anything. So really we have 3 cars in the family. Her mother lives on the other side of the same property. Do we need those 3 cars? No, we were going to consolidate to 1 car. So you're mentioning, yes. Do we have too much really? Should we strip it down a little bit and live even more simply so we can help to sustain this world of ours? I
think that's the core thing, that the takeaway from this whole kind of like interview really, or meeting rather, is to go, to question our kind of need for things to fulfill us rather than our own internal, well-being. That can, I could take you through a guided meditation and make you feel the biggest bliss vibe you've ever felt, right? And so it's all within us. Everything we need is actually within us. And obviously, the body needs to be fed. The body likes to be relaxed. The body likes to kind of like have various things that make things kind of like, nice and pleasurable. But everything we need is within us already, So when you can be satisfied with kind of, the simple basic vibes, like even just being able to go out and walk in a forest somewhere and feel nature around you, or, just be with your dog, for instance, and these simple things, coming back to basics and not, thinking that shit, I've got to jump off a cliff to get high or whatever. These things are great, don't get me wrong, because people are adrenaline junkies. I'm not saying they're not. But it's all very external, needing that external hit to make you feel alive. You actually generally don't need it, because you can jump off a cliff in your mind and it can be just as real, because the subconscious actually doesn't know the difference between sort of reality and reality, and that's why you can manifest when you visualize, right? So, as I say, we're more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. We can heal ourselves if we truly believe in our well-being. We can create miracles on this planet. We have the ability to do amazing things, some great things. Human beings have the most potential, to do incredible things, and yet here we are, sort of talking about the things that are kind of, problematic, and we should be so much more advanced than that. People talking about racism in the 21st century, that should have been eradicated years ago. It's so old, and come on, we've got to get through this. It's just ridiculous. It's just like basically, the world is burning and you're worried about what color your skin is. Do you know what I mean? It's just, for Christ's sake, let's get over that. It's a division and it's stopping us moving forward. All this kind of like activism that, whatever you do in bed is up to you, my friend. I don't have any qualms about what you do, what you get up to. Do you know what I'm saying? But it is just a human thing that people do. It's not the end and all. What is inside you is more important than what you want to identify with. In actual fact, you're better off identifying with nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because actually, sort of like, you can be manipulated by these identifications with things. So these are all confusing kind of external things that actually will cause more problems than they will actually solutions. And when things become politicized, like, the Budweiser thing, for instance, over there, which has just gone mental, the Bud Light thing, it's very divisory. It's very sad to see, this happen, because again, sort of like, you know, we're all human beings at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, you know, it doesn't, okay, so what? You know, there's a transgender person on a bloody beer can. What difference does it make? Why is a Kid Rock machine gunning cans of beer because it's got a bloke on it that wants to put a dress on? Do you know what I'm saying? Or, you know, all right, a woman, whatever you want to call it, getting this whole uptightness of like, oh, they didn't call me them, or didn't call me this, or didn't, and binary. You know, it's all very confusing and divisory, and actually it gets away from the point of like that. Actually, it doesn't. When we all die, none of this is going to, it's not going to matter whether you're American, Russian, Chinese, English, whatever. You won't be anything other than spirit. That's it. Energy.
We're all energy.
All of this will mean nothing when you draw your last breath. And all of this panic about, you know, whether you were this or whether you were that, or whether you were Republican or Democrat, will mean nothing. So if we could actually live like our last breath, that none of it will mean anything, then actually maybe we could start living beyond this division and hatred and all the other things of, you know, he did that, he hasn't said that, he didn't refer to me as this, and meanwhile, like I say, the planet's burning, you know, and it's like, you know, it becomes very trivial. You know, we should be way, as a species, we should be way ahead of it, way ahead of all of these arguments. We should be transcending to the point where we're levitating, you know what I'm saying? Like we're moving without actually even moving. Do you know what I mean? We're transcending our bodies, we're transcending our races, we're transcending all of this, and actually, you know, becoming superhuman with the way that we project our thinking. You know, you don't need a metaverse, you've got it in your brain already. You know what I'm saying? It's everything that you need is in you now. It's in you now. It's just that the way that things are set up, it's set up to make you feel that you're inadequate because you don't have these things. Because someone down the line said, oh, if you don't have a Lamborghini by the time you're 25, you're a failure. Well, that's just based on what? Based on whose value systems is that based on? Do you know what I mean? It's like, you know, as I say, I can leave you with this, dude, because I know we could keep going, but I can leave you with this. If you can sit still in any moment of your day and take a deep breath and silence the thoughts in your mind and become still and just be, then you have found the truth. If you can do that for, you know, even a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes out of your day, where you can de-stress yourself, not worry about anything that's going on in the media, not worry about what Taylor Swift said yesterday or what bloody whatever Budweiser are doing. If you can actually silence your mind and realize that none of it means anything, and what is important is your connection to, you know, to this electromagnetic universe that feeds you on a day-to-day basis. And if you can be in gratitude with that feeling of silence, then you have made it, brother.
I think I need to take a sabbatical and head off to a Buddhist monastery and spend some time out there.
You need to do that because you've got the monastery in you now, brother. You know what I'm saying? It's in you now. You can close your, you know, after this interview, you could go, right, okay, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes. Here's the thing, right? So count backwards from 10 to 1 and just see if you can do that without a thought coming in. You know, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did you do it without coming? So I did that. No thought came in. I was just focused on the numbers. So my brain stopped. It was just focused on the numbers. And then you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and then suddenly the numbers stop, and there's nothing other than just the immensity of the feeling of bliss that you get from that silence, right? And even the sort of even the colors and the stuff that can come into your mind is illusionary. It can be illusionary, right? And I'm not saying that you can't use those meditations to use your imagination to create solutions to problems, right? Or to go, right, actually, I need to focus in. So I'm in that higher space of mind now So I need to now focus in on, okay, I've got a problem with the kind of the air conditioning. What is that? I've been trying. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's when the solutions come. They don't come from the panic, right? So within that framework of silence, you can create genius. Like, Einstein was genius because he was able to do that. Tesla was genius. Why was Tesla genius? Because Tesla could turn that off and actually see alternative currents to make the alternator, to understand that this was an electromagnetic universe that you could plug into and actually create energy from what was already around us, all the way around us. We could have been beyond oil and petrol back in the 20s. If JP Morgan had listened to Tesla, we wouldn't be even talking about sustainability. You know what I'm saying? But because because Tesla made the fatal error of saying free energy, it got him kind of put in a situation where the history books wrote him out, and then that's the unfortunate thing. So it comes back to greed again, and that's the sad thing. But without getting sideswept, we have got genius within us, but we just need to kind of listen. We just need to focus and do what I just said. You can use to counting backwards, just to silence the mind, and then let the numbers drop, and then feel where you are, because I tell you, it'll be like an ocean of bliss. And you won't want to drink, you won't want to smoke, you won't want to do anything. When you start hitting those highs, nothing can touch you, man. Nothing can touch you. Nothing, because you want to know where the truth is. That's where the truth is.
Yeah. I think about who killed the electric car, because we could have been in our flying cars by now. We could have been so much further by now. But as soon as you're right, as soon as Tesla said free in this capitalist economy, no, there's nothing free. You need to monetize that. You need to make some money. And so who killed the electric car? I think I need to meditate on that. Take some time out.
You know what? There's nothing wrong with making money either. There's, money's great if you can if you can balance your, because you got to realize that money is just energy, right? You do something and somebody gives you the equivalent of what you feel your energy was worth in paper or gold form. That's all it is. So if you're good at supplying energy that people want, you get more money, And so that's all business is. It's just an energy exchange. And if you can do something that people want, you can solve a solution. You're going to make money out of that. You know what I'm saying? And so money comes as a result of your ability to serve. And when you serve in the right way and you can create value to people, you accumulate what they call money. Now, it's what you do with that money that's important. So it's how you redistribute it to go, I've got this, I've got more than enough, I've just made 2 million out of that, so I can now reinvest that into an education, meditation facility for young kids. You know what I'm saying? Well, do you see what I'm saying? And that way you can then go, right, well, we can build some really cool things here. We can eradicate issues of, irrigation for farms that are suffering from drought, for instance. Do you know what I mean? We can, there's loads of, that's what I'm saying. It's not just about accumulation of money. It's about redistribution once you've got it.
Well, Dara, and that's I hope you make enough money with your endeavors, your creativity. Yes, we do have to take care of ourselves first, and then start taking care of our community and make concentric circles with the resources that we have. And I'm glad that you have that mindset to where you take care of yourself and your lovely girlfriend, and then you go further out into the community and start helping, the homeless, the poor, the wretched masses that are yearning to be free, I suppose. I paraphrase that thing that's on the Statue of Liberty.
That's it.
It's our wretched masses yearning to be free. Give us your poor. It's something. It's on the plaque at Ellis Island at the foot of the Statue of Liberty. I need to look it up and refresh my memory. But my goodness, always good.
Go ahead. Thing though, I take the wretched masses out of there because I think that the masses it's a sad thing to call human beings like that, masses. But I think, you know, the Constitution that America was sort of set up on was just, there was some beautiful concepts there that really set out to create something that was going to be amazing. And it's sort of, you know, Thomas Mann, for instance, right? Thomas Mann, okay. Local guy from here, actually, you know, worked on the Constitution, and there's, you know, those kind of vibes are just, you know, so important that we get back to kind of realizing that there was a value system put down at that point, and that value system needs to be reawakened, and we need to look at what those kind of things were and go, that's a beautiful value. We should bring that out, re-look at that Constitution, and reevaluate what is good for us, what is good for us now, and then take out what isn't good. And do you know what I mean? And yeah, so that's what I'm saying, man. We just need to reevaluate, and as I say, the core takeaways from this: reevaluate our value system and realize that everything is within you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I did look up the Statue of Liberty, the Emma Lazarus Percham. She wrote that in 1883 for the pedestal of the Statue of Liberty. It's called the New Colossus. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. But yeah, that's the beginning of it, and there's more to it. But oh my goodness, Darragh.
So that's really beautiful. I mean, you think about that, right? And you just think about that, the Statue of Liberty welcoming people from sort of downtrodden sort of backgrounds from all around the world. You know, that was America, man. That was what America was based on. It was based on giving people a land of opportunities, and you know, and that dream can still be. You know, that dream can still be. It's still, you know, it's still got the. You know, America's still got the resources. It just needs to be managed and brought together. You don't need a Trump, man. You don't need any of that. You need just somebody that can go see the values within. Do exactly that. See the values in all people within that framework and go, what is our common denominator? What brings us together? And redefine, as I said, that value system and find a way of bringing people together. It's not going to happen through Donald Trump. It's not going to happen through whoever else it is, unless somebody is talking on that level to go, let's unify. Let's not have these divisions. Let's not have you over there kind of preaching about. Let's work together. Let's not cancel each other. Let's talk about our differences. Let's work together in the spirit of, you know, freedom and love. For everything and everyone, and sustainability and all these other things. But, you know, the core value system of human beings is what needs to be brought to the forefront in order for us to be able to move forward on this material plane and not be fighting over that small, divisory kind of subject matter that actually is banal when you boil it down. It's just like, what are we fighting over? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So let's come together. Let's move forward, and let's you know, let's just make this kind of place an amazing world. You know, amazing. It's not just make America great again. Let's make the world great again. You know what I'm saying? You know, let's make the world amazing. We can do it. We can do it. We've got the ability to do it. We've got the know-how. We've got geniuses here. You know, there's no need for people to be sort of like fighting wars. We can communicate with each other. You know, it can all be resolved. And it's not me just talking kind of like, you know, I don't know, you know, hippie kind of, you know, it's not, it's honestly, it's doable, man. And if it's the choice between joy and pain, what do you want? Do you want to feel joy or do you want to feel pain? This is the core. You got the choice. It's up to you. You want to keep stabbing yourself in the eye? Crack on, man. Or if you want to feel super high, take that choice, you know. But I honestly think you'd be better off taking the super joy high vibration rather than the constant pain all the time. You know, life's short, dude. Life is short, you know, and we kind of like, we don't have, tomorrow's not guaranteed, you know, but I tell you what will be, if I get up tomorrow, I'll be saying my thanks and praise to God, man, to say thank you, Lord, for another day. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Do you know what I mean? Because that's my tip, man. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I work through Jesus's energy. That's my, he's my guy. He's my dude, right? He's the guy I get my buzz from, and he makes that energy, right? Even using the word he, but there's an energy that I get even when I say that energy. Jesus makes me kind of like just emotional. My feelings get emotional when I think about that energy, and so I channel my energy through Christ. You know what I'm saying? And sorry if that upsets people, but man, that's my tip. That's my vibe, and so I give thanks to Jesus every day. I pray to Jesus and say, "Thank you, Lord, for this never day." I listen to the birds singing. I get up. I can see I walk my dogs. I give my dogs, as much love and support and all the rest of it, and my chickens and the horses and all the rest of it. And, and I just give thanks for the fact that I get to breathe another day. And that's enough. That's enough. And if anything comes in after that, of course, for well-being, I'll go about my business. But I will give gratitude first up, to Jesus for allowing me another day to breathe this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful planet that we live on.
Hey, Jesus is just all right with me. And I know that the whole world can come together and make great things. I look at the International Space Station. There's great things happening, with people working from all over the planet. And even the Olympics. I watch the Olympics. My goodness, these are people from all over the world working together, making something fun for people to watch and competing against each other, but still living in brotherhood. So yes, this whole planet can come together, and we have to if we want to explore new worlds and reach out to other life forms in the galaxy, and then ultimately the universe. We have to come together. We can't be separate factions. Get this planet, once again, get ourselves together before we can go out and explore other places. My goodness. Deep. Kusha Deep, man. Dara.
Yeah, we can do it, but we just need to kind of get together, and find I think time is definitely short. I think the time is short in terms of us carrying on down this road of division and scarcity politics. I think that time is short. Time's running out for that energy, and I think that we need to start having these being honest, being truthful, being kind of brave enough to kind of go, we need these conversations. Yes, there are issues, big issues that we need to look at in terms of sustainability, and all the other practices that are being discussed, but not to be frightened about. You see, I don't do politics. That's the thing, is I'm not about politics. I don't believe in real politics. I don't believe politics works. So I'm not into right. I'm not into left. I'm just into kind of what is going to work, man. That's all I care about. Is it going to work? Is it going to change people's lives? Then let's do it. Let's go for it. Let's, how are we going to end homelessness, man? How are we going to sort of like create an economy that isn't based on death?
Well, matter can't be created or destroyed. And while we're in this iteration of our matter, it's what we do while we're on this planet in this, in this iteration. And you making your music, you're going to live forever. Kusha Deep and Dara is going to live forever because you've put something out into the universe that's going to resonate with people forever and ever. There's a reason we still think about Beethoven and Mozart and all the other people that have made great music and great things. They're still living 500, 600 years into the future. And I expect, hey, the only hope I have for you is that 1,000 years from now, they're still grooving to a Dar.Ra song, Well,
to be honest with you, Keith, I totally hear what you're saying there, you know what I'm saying? But to me, it wouldn't matter if they weren't, to be fair, do you know what I'm saying? I think that, if within this framework that I have here that, I've lifted a single person with my conversation with you tonight, then that's enough. And if somebody goes off and can help somebody else, then that's, then we've done our job, man. Do you know what I'm saying? And, maybe we've given someone some insight to go, you know what, maybe I shouldn't worry about that energy. Maybe I should just be sort of like looking within myself and finding that bliss that we talked about. Doable, man, doable. You know what I'm saying? And once we, as I say, you know, to reiterate, once we find inner peace, then we'll find peace within the world. You know what I mean? And you know, it all starts within. It all starts within. That, you know, and that's how we'll create change.
Well, you've
and that's, you know, at the end of the day, it won't matter sort of 500 years down the road. It will just be, that will be it, right? Here's the thing, right? If one thing you did in this world that actually made people realize that actually the truth was within them and freedom was within them, then that's enough, man. Do you know what I'm saying? That's enough, you know. And you know, I'll leave the legacies to Lennon and McCartney. Do you know what I'm saying? But you know, sure, it's beautiful, man. When people love what you do and they get into what you do musically, then that's awesome too. You know what I'm saying? It's awesome too. But it's not the end and all. You know what I'm saying? It's truth, love, honesty, well-being. You know, spreading that kind of vibe. Like, for instance, I do a workshop in a brain trauma unit, a music workshop, and you know, and it's a really it's a buzz, you know, to see people responding to music, you know, and you know, I use a bit of NLP alongside that, so we, you know, working kind of memories, using kind of music and using kind of little memory games to kind of get people moving and moving their bodies with tambourines and shakers and dancing, and you know, and when you see kind of people responding to sort of music with just this ultimate joy, then that's what music's about. That's the power of it. That's just doing stuff like that, workshops, man. You know, for me, you know, I played in front of big audiences. You know, when I say big, you know, what's biggest audience? Maybe not massive, but say 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 people, maybe. Do you know what I mean? But, and that's a great thing, right? But playing to people like, for instance, who are suffering from brain injuries or dementia, and seeing that joy on someone's face, you know, in a crowd of maybe 15, 20 people, that's worth much more to see that, because that's music working in the community space that is really, really helping push forward and giving some joy, you know. And I've done some amazing work with people with dementia where we've kind of like worked memories that, you know, had been locked in people's minds for sort of, you know, for a long period of time. And they were just been stuck in front of a television, staring at a television for 12 hours a day. And I've come in and done a little workshop, and then suddenly they're talking about memories, and, you know, it's an incredible vibe, you know, it's incredible. In fact, actually, that first interview that we did when I was attacked by the nurses, that's what I was doing. I was doing a workshop, you know, and you know, I'll give you, for instance, I know we got to go in a minute, but so there was a woman there, lovely woman. She was probably, I don't know, 75, maybe 80-ish, and so I played this song, I think, and I play some cover. I play stuff that they know because they have to know the stuff. So I was playing a Tom Jones tune. I think it was Delilah, and so I played this song, and afterwards I've sort of said, and I could see she was, you know, she's singing along to it and getting into it and this and the other. And then I just asked a few questions, like, and I said to Anne, I said, so can you remember where you were when you first heard that tune? And she was like, I was driving with my husband from Rome to Monte Cassino because my husband had fought in the Battle of Monte Cassino in the Second World War, and he was going back to revisit it. And she just, these memories just pouring out of her mind where, you know, she'd been at the Apollo in Harlem because they'd moved to New York, you know, and she met, her husband had actually worked, you know, seen Sergeant Bilko, you know, because he used to entertain the troops, right? Frank Sinatra, all those kind of dudes. And so this stream of consciousness of memories just started to pour out of this amazing woman, you know, and all because I played a song and asked a couple of questions, you know what I'm saying? And that's the power, that's the true power of music, right?
I agree.
you know, and I'm sort of like, when I do it, I'm like, I buzz on that, man. I truly buzz on that. And don't get me wrong, you know, I've played some gigs as well where, again, see, I come out of it, I come from it from a different point of view, where I want to see people come together energetically and really kind of rise up. You know, my gigs are real cathartic kind of situations where I just use the music as a kind of an energy conduit to kind of bring people together and actually get some transcendental vibrations going on. You know what I'm saying? So again, I just use the music in order to sort of lift energy. So like I'm more into shamanism.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Beautiful. Oh, you know, the energy, the vibrations, it resonates with different people in different ways. And if you could bring somebody's mind back, that is such a powerful thing. I'm so fearful. You know, as I get older, I don't want to lose my mind. I don't want to lose my memories. I don't want to lose all the sweet things that have happened in my past. All the bad things, yeah, those can go by the wayside, no problem. But the good memories, I want to keep those. I want to cherish those. You know, I worked hard for those. I'm happy for those. And if you can bring those back. But you're talking about playing for thousands and thousands of people. Yeah, that's your meat and potatoes. Yes, you can make a lot of money that'll help you sustain, get your nut for the month or whatever. But those little intimate shows where you have, you know, less than 100 people, less than 50 people, sometimes less than 20 people, you really connect with those people in a one-on-one basis. Oh, those are the shows that help you fill your soul with, oh my goodness.
But then, you know, working with big crowds as well can be equally as interesting, because, you know, when there's a lot of people together, you can really create like a electric, you know, circuit that can be so powerful, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, so my visualization of doing a show, you know, playing at a festival in front of, like, I don't know, so it's, say there's like 5,000 to 10,000 people there, is actually utilizing certain vibrations, certain frequencies to actually get a merging of energy, of human energy coming together. So the whole of that crowd are not divided, they're actually linked. They suddenly realize that we are all part of the one. And that's when the power happens. That's when the magic happens. And then you realize actually that here's where it gets interesting. You realize that we are just a wave in a vast ocean of humanity. And actually there is more. We are connected by the ocean. The wave isn't divided from another wave because it's all part of the whole, right? So when you go out and you have that kind of concept, you can actually remind vast amount of people that we are one ocean. And then when you get that connection, that energy connection, that's like turning on a massive generator of energetics. Now, the high that you would feel from 10,000 people merging energy into each other would be far superior to any drug on this planet. I could make 10,000 people higher than any drug. I guarantee you, I could make 10,000 people higher than any drug or any alcohol or any substance that you name, by just using certain frequencies and certain inductions to make that reality a thing where people drop their kind of divisionary protectionism and actually, again, utilizing that merging of energy. And as I say, that's when the miracles, look at, and I'm not trying to put myself in any of the same category, but look at what Jesus did with 5,000 people, right? Look at that, right? When he fed the 5,000, right? Manifestation, man. That story is about manifestation. That's about him going, right, we need more food here. So however it happened, it is a story of actually creating more from nothing. And Jesus was basically teaching law of attraction and law of magnetism within those parables. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of things within the Bible that if you actually properly look at it and look at what Jesus was trying to promote, obviously love being the core of that, but actually saying things that again, actually, saying that actually the kingdom of heaven is within you. Look at that. That's Jesus, man. That's not me. That's Jesus. I mean, I've kind of incorporated some of that teaching from various different sources. But the truth of it is, everything that I've said was said by Jesus 2,000 years ago, man.
Yeah, but you realize you're manipulating those same epinephrines, those same levels of substances within the body that people are trying to get with a pill or a drug of some kind. You can manipulate them with your sounds the same way. And that's what, you're raising endorphins. You're raising those levels, making people happy, making people feel what they feel with love. If you eat a piece of chocolate, it's the same vibe as if you're falling in love with someone. So you're probably better for their midsection, their bodies, than having a piece of chocolate. So I appreciate that so much. Keep doing what you do, man. But we're talking about the exports of the British Empire, and Dara, I fully believe you're one of the best exports of the British Empire coming out today, and I appreciate all you do, my man. Well, I mean, I want you to keep being able to do it. Sustaining yourself. So we were talking about money all through this podcast. I hope people listen and give you some of said money and give you the ability to keep on creating what you create. At least let people know how to get a hold of you and find your new album, and also experience the album through the years, the albums that you've done, the music that you've made since you were a wee tot.
Mm-hmm. So you can go, my record label is called Kusha Deep Records. That's KUSHADEEP Records. My artist name is Dara, Dar.Ra. And you can find me, man, on any good stockist, any good kind of places, from Spotify to YouTube. Particularly, I do work with YouTube probably more than I do anywhere else. That's where all my videos kind of go. So we've got a new video for Heavier Than Rock and Roll, which is an AI video, which I'm really, really pleased with, actually. I sort of experimented with the AI kind of side of things and created a bit of an interesting alien invasion kind of storyline, which was really cool. I just wanted to see what we could do with the vibe. So I was really pleased with that. We've got a new single. I've got a new single, EP rather, called Blood and Treasure, which has got an amazing song on there called Cure for Jealousy and No Time for Tears. There's 2 remixes on there as well from both of those tunes. All the lyric videos are actually on my YouTube channel, which is Kusha Deep, Kusha Deep 7. If you go to YouTube and just put Kusha Deep in, I should pop up. And all the music's there. I always put my kind of stuff on YouTube first before it goes anywhere else. So yeah, you can find me. I mean, I do a little bit of social media, do a little bit of Facebook every now and then. But yeah, that's it. YouTube's probably the thing, really, if you want to kind of tune in and listen to my thing. But it will be going out on. We've got a little bit of a campaign starting, actually, from June the 3rd. I think, actually, you're the first interview I'm doing for this campaign, actually. So yeah, I've started with you, basically. We go on. We've got a couple of interviews coming up as well in the UK on a couple of other stations, TV stations, and so yeah, we're just getting the ball rolling on that front, and then yeah, as I say, there's a lot of new tunes that I need to get down and do. So there's music there, man, that you can listen to it and enjoy. If you do go to Spotify and you find me on Spotify, there's loads of cool tunes on there. There's 2 albums which I put out last year called Majestic Retrospectives 1 and 2, which have got all my kind of remixes and pieces of music that goes all the way back to 1995 to the present. So yeah, there's some cool stuff on there, some cool EPs, and there's New Kind of Normal on there, which is the album that kind of I was really pumping out a couple of years back when I think we first kind of hooked up. So that's the deal, man.
Well, Dara, I appreciate that you use the AI. I've just started delving into using the AI to help me write some of my essays that I use for fodder here on this on the podcast. But man, I worship our AI overlords that are going to be taking over, or may have already taken over. It's possible that the singularity has already happened.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, I'm not frightened of any of that stuff. I think it's pretty cool. So No, I'm down with it, man.
Yeah.
I love that Chat GPT or whatever it's called. It's called as you like. I mean, it's kind of, like the other day I was like, because Snapchat's got this AI thing, and I was like, find Dara. And anyway, it came back and goes, and it went, Dara's a super talented musician from the UK with loads of really cool records. And I was like, this is my guy, dude. You know what I mean? So,
I think it's set up to do that. It must know that if you're looking up a certain thing, you might be that thing that you are looking up. People used to Google themselves, or I'm sure they still do, Google themselves and find out what nice things and maybe what not so nice things are being said about them. So the AI, I'm sure, is scrubbing all through that information. And if you're looking up Dara, you're probably Dara.
Yeah. The funny thing is, though, this is how cool it is, though. So, if you know anything about rune stones and divination and all that kind of thing, so I was just kind of like, I went, what is the unknown rune? What does that mean? Boom, straight away, 5 seconds in, man. And it's like unknowable rune. It is, you've reached a portal of kind of like change and, death of a kind of an old outcome and new things that are going to come forward and push in. And, you've got this new perspective on, da-da-da-da-da. And I was just like, whoa, that was pretty fucking cool, dude. You know what I mean? And then I did, I think, an I Ching reading as well, which is the old Chinese divination. They used to use yarrow. The Chinese used to use yarrow sticks, but it's a sort of, you're just tuning into your own ability to sort of predict kind of certain things that are outcomes of certain situations. But again, I can't remember. It was like, rune 64 or something or other, and it was like something like Suen or something or other. And I said, what does Suen mean? And boom, straight away, it is the sun and the elements of earth and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, my God, AI is just off the hook, dude. You know what I mean? Runes, I Ching, you name it, dude. It's got. I mean, it's a crawler, right? It's an internet crawler, so it knows how to find info, sort of super sharp, man. And dude, if it's used in the right way, it's going to be super. It's super off the hook, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And the AI music, have you heard any of that stuff?
Yes, I have. Eventually is it going to be taking over for us, or, is it giving us the whole of human existence? Is it giving us all of the information at our fingertips? Can we be scared of it? Should we be scared of it? No, I don't think we should be scared of it. We're just going to learn more about each other. And if we know more about each other, is it going to help? Or are we going to know each other's weaknesses as well? But if you know their weakness, they know your weakness. Hopefully it's mutually beneficial. Assurance of mutual destruction. If you have the bomb and I have the bomb, and we know that you have the bomb, and oh my goodness, that was the old days, and it's just it's a step away from having the chip put in your brain that lets you have Google at your mind tip. It used to be your fingertips, and now it'll be all in your mind.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'd probably draw the line at kind of like, implementation of anything within my framework. But I think as an external kind of, reference and as an intelligence gainer and as a sort of a source of kind of, being able to kind of enlighten kind of various different sources if you use it in the right way, man. But then that's all technology. If you use it in the right way, it can be really liberating. But I think, that whole wanting to have implants within you, I think that's a different sort of storyline, which I do not think as human beings we should be, cyborging ourselves, because I think that's when you get you will find it difficult to do what we were talking about, which is to switch the thoughts off, because you will have, I think the parameters of having an electronic device within you could cause confusion within an organic framework. We're still organic beings, so I personally don't think sort of having kind of stuff within you is a great idea, but I wouldn't stop other people doing it if they think that's the way forward for them. That's up to them, but I personally don't think it's a good idea. But I think that technology used to aid and abet kind of, well-being and illnesses or whatever, then, that's how it should be used. And And again, using it for challenging ideas that sort of are kind of are affecting us, whether it be economics or sustainability of farming, and having a lot of information enabled to be able to given to us at any given point in time, will allow us to be able to sort of like have frameworks and be able to kind of, create ideas that we might not have been able to have had before without that information within front of us. And, information was very hard to get hold of when we were growing up at school. You had to go to the reference library and look through big, huge books that were dusty and no one really cared about. Do you know what I mean? So having access, but, at the same time, you've got to be careful that, that technology doesn't make you lazy. You know what I'm saying? And you don't, you're not reading those books anymore. And the human beings kind of do need to have, they do need to work for things. I think that the easier things become for humans, the more kind of bread and circuses and the breakdowns of society kind of occur, because anything that's had too easy, like for instance being able to get access to music, it devalues it. When you used to have to go to a record shop on a Saturday with all the wages that you got from delivering papers, you really cared about that record, man. Do you know what I mean? You really cared about that, whatever release it was that you were purchasing that week, or you had to work for it. Whereas I think that getting things for nothing can be a detriment. So it's a are we going to? I think the question is, can we find balance within that framework? And hopefully, there's going to be some sensible. There's some super cool young kids coming through, man. That are sort of really super switched on, and they've got some great ideas about the way that they want to see the world. And a lot of the woke thing, they're getting slated, But actually, I think we have to look at all of it and go, take out the good things, like punk rock, was a detriment to a lot of other people, like the old rock stars, but there was a lot of good stuff that came out of punk rock, right? The DIY kind of energy that made you kind of think, like, at my generation really benefited from punk rock. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Because, we were then, when I came of age in the sort of 90s, having your own record label wasn't an out of kind of like universe idea, because the punk bands had all set their own record labels up before. They had their own magazines, they were DIY, they were making their own clothes, they were they were very, very creative, but they were doing it out of the system. And so we kind of inherited a lot of that ingenuity from punk, right? But if we'd just written punk off and gone, no, don't, we're not listening to any of that because it's going against what we wouldn't have kind of had the 90s. The Oasis were sort of utilizing the Sex Pistols and the Beatles and all that thing together, and we had a really amazing kind of creative force that broke through in the UK throughout the 90s with people who were kind of utilizing that kind of energy. So when sort of the next gens are coming through with what they're calling woke or whatever that is, it's crazy to just be going, no, I'm not having that. Well, no, it's scary. Do you know what I mean? It's important to embrace kind of what's coming forward. So if you've got a 20-something coming at you, kind of going, well, I do believe in trans rights. Well, what's wrong with that, man? Why shouldn't you have rights? Why shouldn't you have equal rights? You're a human being, aren't you? Do you know what I'm saying? So I think that, getting freaked out about Budweiser, man, is like, grow up, dude. Do you know what I mean? Grow up. It's not that bad. It's just a beer can. And if you don't want to drink that beer, then don't drink it. But, this is what I'm saying. It's like, it's just, we go from the pendulum again, man, swinging from back to left. So 1 minute we don't ever hear anything about trans, and then the next minute it's all trans. And then there's a backlash against that, and the pendulums just go, wah! And there's no stability within the situation. So, as I say, we've got to look at everything that's coming to the party, environmental stability. That's such a key thing, We've got to look at farms. We've got to look at how farms are operating and go, well, do we need to eat all that meat? I've been a vegetarian since I was 17. So I think that farming probably does need to change. You know what I'm saying? But I think that animals should have the right to live just as human beings should. You know what I'm saying? And if human beings have got to eat meat, then I think they should respect meat more. You know what I'm saying? So all these things of when we look at farming, we've got to look at kind of like, well, what again is sustainable within that framework? Do you know what I'm saying? So all these are good things, man. They're things that should be questioned, should be brought to the table, and we should be looking at all these kind of frameworks, like, you know, stopping using oil. Great idea. Let's do it. We should have done it 30 years ago. We could have done it 30 years ago, man. We could have done it 50 years ago, 60 years ago. But, you know, we had a real opportunity and we didn't take it. Like back in the day when we were kids, man, we could have got off oil back then, but they didn't. That wasn't part of the narrative. But it, you know, so it's sad that these chances haven't been taken. But, you know, as I say, we shouldn't be looking at the next gen coming through going, oh, woke idiots, you know what I mean? What do they know? They've never fought a war. Do you know what I mean? Well, you know, maybe they shouldn't have to fight wars. Maybe we should be just looking at and listening to where the kids are at, dude. We want to hear where the kids are at, dude. Well, you know what I'm saying? And that's their revolution. That's their revolution, and we should be listening. We should be listening more, you know, and not worrying so much about, oh God, because they've said they're in this camp, I can't like them. I can love you, man, whatever you are, whether you kind of have a green eye and a purple haircut and, you know, yellow paint all over your body. It doesn't mean shit to me, man. Do you know what I'm saying? It was what's going on inside you that means everything to me. Do you know what I'm saying? What are you saying? I think they used to say that a lot in the 60s, but, you know, they say, you know, what is he saying in terms of sort of like, the Beatles have got a new record out. What are they saying? You know, what are they saying? What's the gravitas of the message? You know what I'm saying? And you look at that super cool counterculture that came through in that period of time, and you know the core of that work that they put through from, you know, Allen Ginsberg, Bob Dylan, you know, Jack Kerouac, Ken Casey, Tom Wolfe, you know, all those cats, you know, they were just really formulated kind of like such an amazing, you know, Gore Vidal, Noam Chomsky, all those kind of dudes. They were really pushing the boundaries of what, you know. Again, look at that generation. You know, the generation before that would have looked at that and gone, these guys are out of control, man. They're going to bring down the kind of the whole stability. But we look back at that and we go, well, where's the counterculture now? Well, the counterculture is the woke generation. That's what they're bringing to the table, right? And so, you know, that will balance out. That's why people shouldn't freak too much. It will balance out and we'll get good ideas coming out of that framework. But here's the core. Keep the conversation open so we can actually look at these things, right? Let's not cancel each other and go, oh, he doesn't believe in this and he doesn't, blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? He's left, he's right, he's up, he's down. Let's just look at the conversations and go, you know, what's the good idea out of that? Yeah, that's good. That's a cool idea. Let's move with that. Let's run with that. That's a good idea. So I think in 10 years' time, you'll find that if the world hasn't ended by then, you know what I mean, that there'll be a balance. There'll be more of a balance. I think woke will just be like hippies. It'll just be another like punk. It will just be another movement that has happened, and it will come and it will go, and you'll keep some things that were good out of it, and then something else will come in and replace it. And that's the law of kind of, again, polarity and cause and effect working again. So, you know, when, as I say, going back to Kid Rock shooting and all those beer cans, it's like, come on, Kid Rock. You're better than that, dude. Come on. Well, you know, Dara, you can do better than that. Worrying about, you know, these things when there's big, huge events happening around the world that we should be looking at and discussing like adults, man. Do you know what I mean? Be an adult.
Yeah, you mentioned punk rock, and I mentioned Beethoven earlier. He was accused of corrupting the minds of the youth way back when, and now he's classic music. You know, you can't find a lot of people these days that'll say that Beethoven was a bad dude, and he was, you know, he was punk for his day. But and then you talk about the trans community. Just because my brain doesn't work the same as their brains, I don't understand what it is, doesn't mean I can't respect another human being in this world and let them live and let them pursue happiness as they deem fit, as long as they're not hurting anybody. You know, they're not hurting me, not affecting my life. You know, I'll hey, but don't expect if you walk down the street looking a certain way, I'm gonna, you know, not take a second look and take a double take and go, huh, okay, all right, that's different to my brain. It's different.
What's his name? Dylan McClaney or Dylan McClaney, the guy that was on the trans guy.
No, I don't remember. I don't know that name.
Well, I saw that Bud Light advert and I thought it was funny.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I saw pictures and memes about it. And please, Kid Rock, if you want to buy a bunch of beer and shoot it, you still supported that company by buying all that beer.
Yeah. But I didn't see what the outrage was. It was just a guy or a girl, or what they call it, who was kind of just going, "Oh my God," it was one of those kind of routines. And I just thought, why are people freaking out about that? It's just a guy.
Yeah, it's just my whole life. Lou Reed took a walk on the wild side. He was a she. But that was years and years and years ago. So the boys have always, there's always been boys that wanted to dress like girls and girls that wanted to dress like boys, and maybe they felt more comfortable in certain skins, and maybe they want, now that technology has improved, maybe they want to do the plastic surgery to make their bodies outside feel like they think inside, and hopefully it's not a mistake. I know that they get lots of counseling before they mutilate or change their bodies. Mutilate might have been the wrong word. Before they change their bodies to make themselves more comfortable. Hey, just because I don't think that way doesn't mean I can't let somebody else think that way. I've DJ'd stuff for the LGBTQ plus RSTPT. Which letter? I don't remember which letter, but I've DJ'd stuff for them.
Play for the whole alphabet, dude.
Eventually they'll take the whole alphabet because they want to include, and then they'll start using Greek letters and ever the tween shall meet. What's that?
Yeah. And Roman numerals as well. Yeah, I mean, I've DJ'd at Gay Pride, and I've DJ'd at some, quite a few kind of, events like that out in Ibiza in the sort of 90s, and and it's, there was this thing right in the 90s where it was kind of, I don't know, it was just natural. Particularly if you, not natural in that respect, but like kind of like hanging out in those arenas where there was, gay and straight kind of hanging out together. And it wasn't really sort of something that you kind of question, because, we went through this kind of what they call house music kind of explosion over here. And it was just an amalgamation of people, some were gay, some were not so straight, some were, wherever they were, but no one was in camps. Everybody was it was all just one big bracket. Right. And there was no, this whole kind of, Black Lives Matter thing as well, was no one was mentioning any of that stuff. You know what I mean? If you were black, it didn't matter. Do you know what I'm saying? It was just like that's I don't remember any of this really being a big deal. Maybe I'll be corrected, and you've got privilege and this, that, and the other. But I just remember that there was I grew up with a lot of black guys and black girls, and I went out with I went out with black girls and dated black girls, and if I'm allowed to say that. And I never had a problem, man, hanging out in those crews. And as I say, in the crews that I was hanging out with in sort of 90s, 2000s, and even now, there wasn't really, as I say, there wasn't any mention of kind of race. It was just you were just there to have a good time. You know what I'm saying? And that's that. I think that's the one that breaks my heart, man. When I just think that, people are just divided in that way now, and it became a thing. It's like, it's just sad, man. It's sad, but it's the way it is, and hopefully again we'll come back to a balance. The pendulum will swing back, and we'll find that unity, we'll find that love, and it will all it'll all pan out, because that's the way things roll, man. Nothing can stay the same way forever. Even the good times are gotta give away, and the bad times are gotta give way too. You know what I'm saying? And we got to come back to that natural point where everything changes.
Well, there might be divisions as a whole all over the world, but I still enjoy my microcosms, and I'm sure you still do when you do your concerts. When I'm at the club and I have all different kinds of people singing karaoke songs right next to me. Hey, what kind of crowd is this? Should I sing a country song or a pop song? And I say, man, you should sing whichever song you like, your favorite song. It's going to make them happy. It's going to make you happy, and in turn, that energy from you is going to make them happy. So when you're singing a Dar.Ra song, when you're singing a Tom Jones song for this person that's having issues with their mind, and you make them vibe in a certain kind of way to make them feel better, to make them remember things, to make their energy inside start to connect and click. Oh, it's power. It's superpower that you have, Dara. Keep doing that. Keep it up. All right. Hey, let's close this thing off, man. I know we got time to talk next time as well, man. I know I want you to come back often. And I enjoy that this is conversation number 3 already. And this one explored new pieces. And you didn't think, after speaking for, 3-4 hours already on this podcast, that we'd have anything else to say. No, of course. People need to have these conversations like you and I are having. And they don't have to be all podcasts. People need to sit down with each other and just chat. If you're having a problem with your neighbor, go chat with him. Find out, that you're not so far apart. He wants the same things that you do. Now, he may want that other half of the acre that you only wanted to give him a half an acre, and he wanted to take that whole acre. All right, you may have to come to an agreement on that one.
That's right. No, it's funny. It's funny you should say that. So it's interesting. So, Keith, will this be edited, man?
No, I'm not editing anything, man. I might take out some breath sounds on the audio version, but the video version of this, I'll leave it 2 hours long. No big deal. Sounds great. I love what you've said, man. Love it all.
Well, next time I was going to play you a track tonight, sort of on the guitar, but we'll leave that till next time. But I definitely want to play you some music, some live stuff, and vibe up the place a little bit. But it's always appreciated. So, have you got the new single? Have you got Cure for Jealousy?
I don't think I do. You can always send it to me. I appreciate it.
To you, Keys, and No Tears as well, and I can't wait to see it being played on the radio. And like I say, I'm happy to come back and play some music for you next time.
Well, that's one thing is music doesn't sound all that great on podcast. And if anybody wants to hear your music, I encourage you to check out the YouTube and wherever you make the most money. Where is the place that you make the most money where people listen to your music?
Well, on what platform?
Which platform?
I guess sort of YouTube's, as I say, the one that kind of brings in a few pennies. Do you know what I'm saying? Okay. But So you go to YouTube or Spotify.
Hey, I had 10,000 hits on Spotify. I got my check for 0.8 cents.
I had 100,000 I stopped bothering looking after a while, and I had 100,000 on You Kind of Normal, I think, in the first couple of months of it. And again, the royalties have been very, very minuscule on that. So it's not like back in the day when we were selling 50, 60, 70,000 records and actually making a few quid out of it. Do you know what I'm saying? So, but again, sort of, it's not just about the money for me, man. It's about, again, lifting. And I think that when we spoke earlier about, if it's value for people, then they'll give you something. If they feel it's valuable for their lives, then, they'll vibe. But I think, again, sort of, I'll leave you on this. So, for me, if you're listening to my vibe, what I'm trying to do is actually lift you to a higher realm. I don't want to keep you here on this third dimensional realm where you feel pain or you feel anguish. I want to take you above that. So if you see a Dar.Ra show, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be working as a unit. It's not just about the music. It's not about me. This is a different tip, man, that I'm talking about. This is not about just music. It's about bringing people together and lifting them into a very joyful, blissful state, the natural state of being. That's what this is all about. That's what Kusha Deep's about. That's what Dara's about. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't think I had something to offer that's different to, I don't know, like Harry Styles or wherever else they're going out and spending fortunes on. Do you know what I'm saying? So, that's the core. It's about kind of like bringing people together and lifting them into that bliss state. That's what I do, man.
I always finish these things off with last words for the people, but I think you've already given those last words. Thank you, Dara, for being on the What Makes You Famous podcast. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah. No, it's been a pleasure. I love you, brother. You know that, and I'm looking forward to kind of like seeing you. And we always stay in contact on Facebook anyway, so it's always cool to sort of like say. But I must get that music over to you. Can I just say, one love to America. I do generally. I've got so many good friends in the States, man. They are the coolest. They're so supportive. I've got friends from Wyoming down to sort of Florida to Los Angeles to San Fran, New York. I've got some just beautiful people. So I mean that genuinely. You guys are the best in terms of, you're just beautiful. I mean that, man. You're beautiful people, and you deserve better. You deserve better. All right. So I'm coming over. I'm coming over to bring you all together. That's my mish. You know what I'm saying? Bring you all together and just bring that whole let's make love great again. Do you know what I'm saying? I'll leave you on that note. Let's make love again. No, let's make love great again. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, peace, love, one love to America. Meditate, guys. Meditate and project love.
Well, there you have it, party people. Dara of Kusha Deep Music. What a cool dude, and he's a rock star. Oh my goodness, so much thought. And that thought, it's reflected in his music. He doesn't just spit that out. He doesn't just talk the talk. He walks the walk. He goes out into the community. Dara, you're a man of the community. You help out people. The first time that we chatted, you were in that nursing home, doing your musical therapy session. And meanwhile, they're taking blood from you. I couldn't get over that one. That was kind of fun. You were physically in pain while we were trying to have a chat. These nurses wouldn't leave you alone. They kept stabbing you. But that was the first time that we talked, and I knew that it was the beginning of an interesting relationship. And you have a lot of great thoughts, a lot of on the money thoughts. Thoughts that are going to provoke people into thinking about their own selves, their introspection, reflection of the world around you, and how you can help it. I love talking to you, Dara, and I appreciate you being on the podcast. I know we took a lot of time, and I'm not editing anything. What you hear is what you got. It was 2 hours of bliss, and I'm very happy that Dara came back on the What Makes You Famous podcast and told what he needed to tell and said a few words. I appreciate that. Hey, find him on Facebook, Kusha Deep Music, Kusha Deep, Dara, Instagram, Dar.Ra. Brady. Dara Brady is his actual name. He's in LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud, Kusha Deep. Look up Kusha Deep or look up Dara, Dar.Ra. I know that when I put Dar.Ra on my various feeds, it wants to read it like a web page, like a website. So it affects the thing. That little dot between the Dar and the other and the Ra, it affects some things. But I appreciate it. It's a lot of fun, man. When I play his Dara's music, it tweets out when I play it on RadioWhat.com. It tweets out on my Twitter feed, Radio What Twit, and you'll see it gets read like a web page. It's kind of fun. All right, party people, that's it for this edition of What Makes You Famous. Now, if you, my loyal listener, if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email keysdan@aol.com. That's it for me. It's keysdan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.